All right, thank you for joining me this morning. My name is Anthony with the Account Implementation Team at the Apple Leisure Group. We are going to take a look at some advanced booking techniques that you can do within the VAX booking system under the Apple Vacations brand. So, as always, we want to make sure we go into the supplier showcase and then head over into the Apple Vacations agent store, and we just simply click on that through the supplier drop down that you see on the VAX main page. Now, the My Apple online booking system, again, is active and ready for you to use for those departures starting May 1st and forward. Okay, Apple Online 4.0, that booking system is again reserved for bookings already created before the merger, as well as those situations where the departure date is April, from, say, for instance, today's date up until April 30th. Okay, so both systems will block you from being able to do actions in those systems outside of those date ranges we just mentioned. Okay, so just try to keep that in mind as you go through utilizing the VAX booking system you see here to access those reservations for those departure dates of May 1st and forward. All right, so let's take a look. There was a question that was brought up before we even began today in regards to a couple of things, specifically about middle names and then about seat assignments. So let's take a look at a reservation that I already built. And we'll just pause for a second while that brings that up while I respond to someone here. All right. Sometimes it's hard for me to type and speak about different things at the same time. So we'll take a look at this reservation that I created a little bit earlier. And then as you notice in here, these digits right here, if that wasn't brought up in previous sessions, this is always the number 0. It's never the letter O. All right. If you try to put them in as letters, it won't access the reservation. So just that you're aware of that. Also, on the screen, do also note before we get into the actual reservation we're pulling up, you can search in other methods as well as the, in addition to the reservation number. Okay, so say you didn't write the reservation number down or you don't have it, nearby or what have you. You can search by the passengers' names. Maybe when you booked it, like within the last week or two. You can enter in date ranges. Maybe you know when they're traveling. You can put in departure dates and things like that. Also, note that you can pull up and get reporting information about specific origins. Say you want to know all the reservations you have booked out of Chicago O'Hare, or even the destination. You want to know all the reservations you have active right now that are traveling to Cancun or Dominican Republic or what have you. All right. Do you perhaps have a promo code that you've been using on bookings and you want to get a summary of those bookings that you have that promo code on? You can pull reports as far as that is concerned as well. Now, this agent one, do note that that's kind of more of a managerial or administrative function where they can go in and pull up specific agents and get listings of reservations and things like that. Agencies will do that in many cases if they're, rewarding agents for activity or whatever the case is. And then the booking status is really whether it's active or canceled, or you can pull any. Whenever you pull up a series of reservations, say for instance those that you have a promo code on, you enter that promo code here, you click on search, it'll have a long listing of the reservations below. You can also click on a button that allows you to export all of that information to an Excel spreadsheet. Okay, so that allows you to build information and maybe put together rooming lists for the promo code or whatever the case may be. Okay, so let's pull up that reservation and take a look at the information that I was referring to earlier. Now, middle names. Let's clarify something. The system has an access or has a point for you to enter in the middle name, okay, when you build the reservation. But whether or not you put that in is not necessarily important, okay? You do want to make sure that you put it in correctly, okay? So Jacob's middle name begins with an R, so we really just need to put in the middle initial if we wanted to. If on his passport his middle name is Robert, they get it. R, Robert, it's the same thing. Same thing with Jessica, her middle name is Marie. Obviously, M is the first letter in the middle name Marie, okay? So if they have the full name in there, it's always best to include all of the information. But if you just put in the initial, it's logical and they would figure out that it's there. Now, if you were to put in nothing and they have a middle name on their passport, it's not going to make a difference. The middle name has really nothing to do with TSA and things like that. The first name and the last name need to be an absolute match. Spelling needs to be absolutely correct. Whether or not you include the middle name or middle initial is really up to you how you handle that, okay? If the client insists that all of that information is in there, that's great, but it should match. Make sure that it, you can certainly match it up directly with the information on the passport, okay? So we're going to jump into another piece. Down here a little bit further, we have the reservation already built, okay? We do have to wait typically until we get to this point before we select seat assignments in many cases, okay? But this is an easy fix, okay? So we just simply scroll down to the section under modifications, okay? So we have our built reservation, we click on modifications, and then we find our change seat assignment option right down here. It shows that it's already tacked on seat assignments to these particular flights for the travelers. And then we can go right here and click select seat assignments. So we can still change them, okay? So we can go into this and we can see it'll show you whether it's an occupied seat, what's available, and so on. Toggle between the respective travelers. Now, obviously Jessica's going to have a seat, but at this point, all of the designated seats, the specifically assigned seats ahead of time, may already be filled by the airline. Okay, so at this particular point, it doesn't mean that Jessica won't have a seat. It just means at this point, Jacob has an assigned seat because he's listed primary on the reservation, and unfortunately, Jessica doesn't have an assigned seat yet. Okay, so if we wanted to change that, see if it'll allow us to do that, we change the person, and then we can see that there are additional rows behind us here that perhaps aren't available to designate as an assigned seat. Now, these are the ones that are available at no cost, okay? So you can also see the exit row seating here is perhaps not even necessarily assigned per se, but the airline may be just reserving those and saying, all right, at this point, it's going to be assigned at check-in or something like that. Okay, so you can see that you can also check out the return flight information. Okay, we see that Jessica has a seat assigned there, and we can see seat 1 is right here, Jessica's seat 2 on the opposite side of the aisle. Looks like this is a plane with 2 aisles on it. Okay, so just know that you can go in and do this if that's necessary. If you make a change to it, don't forget to hit the change button. So just by going in here and clicking on something, that doesn't lock it in. Yeah, because it's a Windows-based software system, you need to kind of, click a couple of times to get it to do what you've wanted in a complete action. Okay, so if we were to have changed anything and it doesn't look like we have the ability to at this point, we change it to whatever we wanted, and we click on the change button, and then it will lock it in on the reservation. Okay, so that's where you'll find that. It's going to be under modifications, and then you'll have to go to seat assignments, and then click on select seat assignments. Okay, sometimes if the seats are available for you to select in the build process, it will show up in the flight section of the reservation near the top of the screen. Okay, so I'm just going to open up a new session here. Looks like VAX is being a little weird, so let me go back in. Sometimes my system's been a little messy with me today. I don't really have an answer for why it's acting that way, but we'll just log in again and Hopefully it'll work a little bit cleaner. All right, and that will happen sometimes. So don't get too bothered by the fact that it gets weird, and occasionally that'll happen. Absolutely, you got it, Judy. So that was a question that came through from Judy on the middle name as well as the seat assignments. But that's a simple process, and definitely go in and check it out and use it if you should need to. You just gotta. And I think a lot of the apprehension in using VAX is coming in that it's different. Okay, things are in a different place. So it's good that we've got these questions that we can answer so that we know that you knew that you could do this before, you just didn't know where you can do it now. Okay, and that's a lot of times what really comes down to. So I want you folks to know that you can go in and practice it. Everything that I'm doing within the system here today, everything that I'm demoing with you, is something that you can go in and play around and build. I know you don't have all sorts of extra time on your hands, but sometimes just going in and utilizing the system and seeing how it works and how you can change things and that type of thing in the system. Okay, as far as the Apple Vacations default, now, so that you know that the Apple Vacations is what's going to appear in the booking system, you can do one of two things. Okay, one of them has to be handled by the administrator for your agency. Okay, the administrator would go into Member Services. So they would log into VAX, go into Member Services, and they would go into Agency Preferences. Okay, so the administrator or the manager needs to do it in that fashion. Now, for you as an agent, if you don't want to have to go through that and whether or not that agency, the agency manager, administrator, wants to set up a default for everyone, and that's what it would be for the entire agency, you can do something completely different. You can come here, get to the Applications main page, and simply save this as a favorite and lock in on the actual address. So you simply go to Favorites and Add as Favorites, and it will jump you right into the Apple Vacations page. What'll happen, though, okay, just to clarify, what'll happen is when you get routed into the system, so you click on that favorite, it will expect you to log into VAX first, okay? So you'll click on your favorites, whatever it happens to be, and then when you click on that, it'll route you to the VAX main page. You put in your login information, but then it'll bump you right once you click on Enter. It will bring you right to the Apple Vacations page that we see now. Okay, so that's really the best way to go about it, is bookmarking this page and getting it in that way. Okay, you can do that with any page within VAX itself. You could save each one of them independently as favorites. Otherwise, you're going into VAX Vacation Access on the main page, going to the supplier dropdown, and getting in that way. Either way, whatever's easiest for you is what it comes down to. Okay? All right. So let's scroll down a little bit further and let's talk about some of the different things that you can do. Let's talk about this shop by function. Okay? So there's been a lot of talk about, I can't see all the flights on United that I see on their airline. On their airline's website. I want to make sure that I'm getting this. It's not coming up when I try to pull it in VAX. Well, what the system is set up to do is it's set up to pull 10 to 12 of the lowest price options from each individual airlines based upon the booking criteria you've entered up here. Okay, so that automatic default is set to price. You can shop by schedule. So what that will do is it will pull in significantly more inventory for you to see and select from. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at that. We'll use Cancun as our destination, and let's pick some dates. Don't forget we can't book in here until May 1st or forward, but let's go into September, for instance, 14th, and let's say 5 nights. Okay. So it'll autofill in the return date. We won't do anything with travel protection at this point, okay? So we've changed the shop by schedule. We've had some difficulty with this feature earlier in the week, so hopefully, fingers crossed, it does work properly. But this should pull through significantly more flights within the system for you to select from. This is also useful if you do need to submit a price match. Many times price match is going to require the exact class of service. Okay, so that information will be available within this search tool as well. All right, so great. All right, so it's coming up the way we want it to. All right, so what's cool is you can see our city pair as well as our travel dates. Over here on the right-hand side, you normally would see some pricing because it's building a sample package for you to alter as you go through the process. Pricing doesn't show up because we're not shopping by price, we're shopping by schedule, so there's no price that comes into consideration yet. Down here, what you'll see is your outbound and your return flights all side by side. It'll list them in order based upon the number of stops, okay? So say we want information on this American Airlines flight. If we want to just tell the system, give us the lowest price from this particular flight, okay, we can do that just by clicking here and it'll tack that on for us. What we do want to take a look at is what I had mentioned about the extra flights. As you can see here, there's significantly more flight inventory that's loaded in when we're shopping in this manner. Okay, so there's a lot more that you can select from on this particular screen utilizing this function. Okay, so if it's not showing up under the normal search, this is perhaps a really good way to go about finding those flights. Again, if we want information on the American Airlines flight, we want to see the different classes of service that are available, we click on the plus next to view class, and it opens all of them. Okay, so these are all of the different classes of service available on this particular flight. Okay, class O would be the lowest price option, and then it's Q, N, S, and so on, with J being typically the most expensive option under the classes that you see. All right, so it's essentially going to go from the bottom right in this direction, row by row, and get more and more expensive as you go through. Okay, so J in this particular case can be assumed that it's either first or business class. Okay, O would be the most or the least expensive. Typically, you'll see a number within the parentheses here. In this case, typically American is only going to assign 7 seats per class. Let's take a look at this United flight really quick and see what they have. Now, in their case, they're allowing up to 9 seats per class, and their lowest class of service is right down here, the N, and then it goes G, K, and so on. All right. Take special note, those seats that have a 0 obviously mean there are 0 available when we pulled it, and in this case, there are only 5 available under the T class. Now, in this case, when you see under United, American is a little bit different. We saw that it was only showing 7. All right. With United and other airlines, whenever you see 9, know that there are at least 9 seats. So there could be 10 or 12 or 15 available, but no, at this particular moment, there are at least 9. Okay, so in this case, if we wanted this United flight, we are simply going to click on the class of service that suits us best. Okay, again, N down here in the lower right is going to be the least expensive, J the most. So we click on J in this case, and then it will box it out and bump up our outbound flight to the top of the page. Over here, what you'll see available is typically only the United at the top of the list, and then any other airlines, if they're partnered with United or whatnot, extras will be down in the lower section. So we should be choosing the same airline on the outbound as the return. We can change that, but only by working with our air team to do so. Okay, so in those cases, build a reservation with the same airline outbound and return. Contact us and we'll work and get that change made on the reservation for what it is that you actually do want. Okay, so let's take a look at the return on United. This is also a nonstop. We'll click J here also, and now we'll see the information for the outbound and return side by side. We see them boxed out, and now again we still see no pricing. So in this case, we need to select price selected flights. All right, so we click on price selected flights. It'll take a moment or two. And if bulk or published air are both available, it will give us an option between them to choose them. If they are not, if, say, for instance, in this particular case, only published air is available, that's what it'll add on automatically. And obviously, we know, based on the package price, that this is business or first class. Okay, so we could have changed to a different class of service and got a significantly lower price. Okay, we want information about the actual plane and whatnot. Click on the flight number, and you'll get that information loaded in right here. Okay, so in addition to that, we see all of the other information in regards to the sample itinerary. Again, if we don't want the Dreams Porta Aventuras, we just simply click on the word hotels on the left and change that and move forward. If we want to reselect flights, we do the same thing, click on the word flights on the left-hand side and make a change there. Okay, so but the main process involved here is finding more flights that are available to us. Okay, so let's go in and take a look at some additional search features that are available in Vax. We go back to the Apple Vacations main page by clicking on the logo in the upper left-hand corner, and we're jumped right back to where we started from. If we come down here, we can see that it again has jumped it back to price as our default. Okay, so let's take a look down here under Advanced Search for some additional items that we can do within the system. Now, we'll scroll down here, and we can see under the flight info, we have our shop by function down here as well. So we can do that from this particular location or from the main page as we saw earlier. Also in here, we can see that we can select different airlines, cabin preference, number of stops, and things like that. My recommendation in regards to the flight, aside from using the shop by function, is really not narrow things down too much, because you could be just eliminating some really good options that were not considered before. For instance, if you tell the system that I only want to see nonstop, okay, well that's great, but if there are no nonstops available in either direction, you'll get no response. Okay, so leave it under any, and it'll show you in utilizing the filters, it's going to happen much more fast, much more quickly, and you'll be able to see that as it changes. Okay, so the flight information, don't make too many changes to it in that respect. That's my personal recommendation. Rental car. You can make changes here. You can specify actual companies, drop-off date and time, and if you can change the actual pickup and drop-off location, if that's available at that specific destination, you'll be able to do that here as well. Okay, but it's going to be dependent on that location and company many times as well, whether that's available. Okay. What we're going to take a look at is offsetting a hotel date booking. So let's go in and select our destination again. They're going to depart out of Chicago O'Hare to Cancun, and they are going in September again. They're going to fly out on the 28th, and they're going to spend 10 nights in the destination. Okay, so that has them returning on the 8th. We'll keep it simple with 1 room and 2 adults. And what we'll do then is tell the system that, you know, they may be traveling this full length of time, but they only need the hotel for a smaller portion of it. Okay, so if we go down to the hotel section, this is where we can change their actual checkout date. All right, so say they arrive on the 28th, but they want to check out on the 1st. Okay, whether it's at the beginning or maybe they want to change the check-in date to be later in the week, and then they spend the last portion of their time in the hotel. That depends on what the travelers need. So you can shift this around however it's needed. Okay, so they're going to stay with friends who maybe have a timeshare or something like that, and they're going to make arrangements on how they're going to get there, you know, with whomever they're traveling with, or whatever the case is. Okay, so we're going to just offset that. If you're going to look for specific hotels, you can input the individual name here if you want, or even search by actual hotel chains. Okay, we're going to leave it just with the offset of the dates, and then we just click on search. So it'll take a moment or two for it to pull in the inventory. What you will see is it'll build a sample itinerary, just like it as it normally would, and attach some air. Okay, do we like those flights? Do we not? At this point, we're just going to work with the hotel section so you can see what that looks like. Okay, so we can see our full travel dates, again the 28th of September, returning on the 8th, so we can see that the flight information corresponds to that. All right, now as we come down a little bit further here, we can see that the hotel information corresponds to the dates that we asked the system to give us the information on. Our reservation total over here, the $1449.96, is based upon this air and a randomly selected hotel. Again, that's the Dreams Porta Aventuras in this case, and the entry-level room, okay, for the shorter time frame. So do we want to make a change to the hotel? We can do that at this point if we wanted to. All right, so do we only want to see 5-star, or excuse me, I use 5-star, the highest Apple rating? We do that. Okay, we want to change the room category. Click on the plus symbol. Maybe they want something that's a little bit nicer because they are staying just for a shorter period of time. And find that right down here. Of course, it's going to increase the price, and it'll tell you that it's done so. And you can see that right over here that it's made the change. Now, this is where I recommend you make changes, detailed changes to the air. Okay, so we see the total number of flights available, 21. Come down here, tell the system you only want morning departures. Tell it you only want nonstop. There you go. Okay, much as you can see, it's a little bit faster, and you could see all of the different choices that you can make right in here. Okay, so we can make that selection right from this particular screen. All right, so we like this American. We click on select. Okay. Question here from Judy. How did you get to that room change again? In the hotel menu, to the left of the hotel name is a plus symbol. You click on that plus symbol and it'll open all of the different room categories that are available at that property. And then within that category, you'll have a green select button like you see here for the flights. Okay, so you just click on the plus symbol and open the different room categories. We're just going to confirm the air really quick so that we can see a summary of the reservation, the 1205. Let's go ahead and pick that, but we can change things here. This 1205 is the only nonstop, so preferred, that's definitely what we want to go with. Okay? All right, so we see the summary of the reservation. We see our air, we see our hotel, and again, we see corresponds to the dates that we inputted. Now, say for instance you got the checkout date wrong, and it should actually be they're spending the night of the 1st and checking out on the 2nd. Oh, well, that's an easy enough fix. In this case, we haven't locked anything in. We don't have any names. We don't really even have a reservation at this point. So to go backwards, we just simply click on the word hotels on the left, and it'll take us back to the hotel selection menu. Okay, so give it a moment. It's still working, so it's going to load in all of our inventory information. What it's also going to do is it's going to save any of the filters that we asked for. In this case, remember, we only asked for the highest rated hotels, so that's still there. So again, to see the different room categories available, here's our little plus symbol to the left of the name, and that's where we see them load in all of the choices. Okay, you'll see your current selection right down here for that particular room. All right, so now again, we need to change the checkout date because the 1st is wrong. It should actually be the 2nd. All right, so let's scroll down a little bit further, and the filter menu below that, you can see our check-in and check-out dates. And we can make the change right here. We click on the 2nd. Now, because the inventory could technically change, because of that extra night, don't forget to hit the search button again. Okay, so that way it'll build that in and make sure that that room category is in fact available for that night. Okay, what if the client wants to say 2 different hotels? Is there a way to do that? Absolutely, and that's something I'm going to cover in multiple destinations, so hang on to that question. We'll demo that in a minute. Okay, so now we can see that that hotel is still available. We can see that the pricing has changed a little bit because we added on an extra night. So that's not unexpected at all. Let's scroll down a little bit. Let's open our hotel inventory and make sure we still have that one available. And right down there, yes. So it'll add on 192.03 to our price. Go ahead and hit select to confirm it, and there we are. Okay, so this is the change for that extra night, and you can see that right there. Okay, and as you saw, if we hit hotels and want to shift it to the middle of the week, to the end of the week, however it works best for the clients, we can do that right there. Okay, so now our little friend Zachary was jumping ahead in subject matter, but that's all right. We'll go back to the main page. Let's click on Apple Vacations to get back there. And let's talk about the multiple destinations search tool. All right. So when we went into advanced search, we saw at the top of the screen that multiple destinations was an option there. Or we clicked on multiple destinations specifically. All right. So from here, we decide what kind of package we're building. In this case, it's air and hotel. Let's keep it simple with 1 room, 2 adults. And we'll select our departure city. Let's just say they're traveling from Atlanta, and they are going to depart. Again, we have to pick some dates pretty far out, just to make sure we get good inventory. We'll say October. Okay. So they're going to go to, let's say Jamaica, okay, in Montego Bay. All right, so they're going to go Montego Bay, and they're going to spend 3 nights in Montego Bay at 1 hotel. All right, they're going to stay in Montego Bay, and they're going to spend another 3 nights at a different hotel. Okay, so the first location under multiple destinations is Montego Bay, Jamaica, for 3 nights. The flight section is grayed out because obviously they're flying to get there. They need a hotel in that destination, but they don't need a rental car. All right, so in this case, it automatically fills in the date for the second destination, which we're just telling the system that our second destination is, again, MBJ, and then 3 nights in Montego Bay, Jamaica, again, okay? So they need a hotel. They don't need a flight because the system sees that it's the same actual destination. We uncheck the box for rental car. We see that they're flying back to Atlanta afterwards, and we click on search. We could change that return flight city as well. Say they wanted to go to Fort Lauderdale. We can change that in there as well, okay? So let's see what this looks like. So you'll get all of the same hotel inventory based upon the dates. What it will do under the multiple destination search option, though, is it's going to ask you to select the air first. Okay, so they're flying from Atlanta to Montego Bay. We want a morning departure. And of course we want nonstop. That's pretty close. All right, Delta, let's pick this 906. We do that. Now we're selecting all of the air, so that includes the return flight at the tail end of our trip. All right, only 4 flights on Delta, and we want to make sure it's nonstop as well. All right, so 12, 320, let's pick 320. All right, give it a moment. Okay, before we do that, you can also see that the seat map, like I mentioned earlier, is loaded in right here. Okay, so this is where you'd be able to have that available to you if you want to specify those. Let's click on select for that return flight though and continue through our process. All right, so what it's going to do, shows us our air at the top, and then it shows each of our possibilities for hotels based upon the destinations. Now you can see destination 1 and destination 2 are identical. It will randomly grab a hotel and add it on. Did you maybe misunderstand? They don't need a hotel there, you can remove it. Don't need a hotel at the tail end, you can remove it. Okay, but we want to change the hotel. We'll go back to the hotel menu by clicking over here on the left-hand side. Pick one hotel for this chunk of the stay. Pick a different hotel for the other part. Okay, it works the same regardless of which destination. Okay, so this is a really excellent way to do that, and it allows you a lot more flexibility. Okay, so just note that that's right in the system and it'll allow you access and away you go. Okay. Now, another feature with multiple destinations is obviously a true multiple destination reservation. Okay, so if we come down here, go back to multiple destinations again. I'm not going to go through the full demonstration, but as you could see from the previous booking, we would enter a lot of the same information. But say, for instance, they're going to the Hawaiian Islands, and they're going to go and hit 3 islands instead of 2. The system is going to automatically load in only 2 destinations, okay? And it's because of the fact that there is no real limitation to the number of destinations you can build, okay? So whether they're going to the Hawaiian Islands, or they're hopping around in the Caribbean, or even over to Europe, whatever the case is, you just simply come down to the bottom and click on Add Additional Destination. When you do that, whether you're going through the build process or you're just filling in those gaps right away, you can see Destination 1, Destination 2, Destination 3. You can hit it again and go on from there. Okay, so you're simply going to input the information that you want from the system for each individual destination. Okay, so if they need flights getting there, great. If they're staying with friends in a particular destination, you can uncheck the box for hotel, and maybe they need a car so that they can get around. Okay, so all of these options are going to show up in the destinations as you go and utilize the multiple destinations tool. Okay, so while we're in this screen, let's do something which we might consider a cruise booking or something like that. If there is, well, let's do it as though they need a gap in a reservation. Okay, they're going to be going somewhere and doing something, but they don't need to book it within the system at all. Okay, so let's use, for instance, the Hawaiian Islands. Okay, so they are traveling from, we'll make it easy, we'll say LAX. Okay, so it'll be much easier to put together. We're going to go, they're going to travel in June. So they're going to depart out of LAX and they're going to go to the Big Island. Spend 3 nights there. They need a hotel, but they don't need a car. All right. So the next destination is going to be when they're not going to need anything within the system. Okay. If they're doing some kind of random tour or something like that, where accommodations and everything like that is going to be part of it, is it a small cruise operation where they're going to be touring around the islands or going somewhere else completely? Whatever the case is, we use this a lot in other brands where they're going on a Caribbean cruise, perhaps, and departing out of Miami. Okay. Since Apple Vacations doesn't fly to domestic destinations, I couldn't build that showing you that demo. But regardless, Hawaii is not technically considered a domestic destination. Okay, regardless of that fact, you're going to fill in a destination. So in this particular case, we're going to fill in a destination, and it's basically just a false destination to tell VAX that they're going somewhere. And in this case, this is going to be for 7 nights, but we don't want to do anything that VAX can book for us. Okay, because they got this excursion or whatever, this special event that they're going to be doing, and whether it's in Kauai or whether it's in somewhere else completely, it doesn't matter. Okay, what we're telling the system is they're going to be going somewhere and doing something for 7 nights, and VAX doesn't need to do anything about it. Okay. So then we come down here, and Destination 3, however, they do want to do something and spend some time on Maui. 3 nights in that case, or whatever. Okay? In this case, they don't need a flight, because whoever they're getting there, the system is going to do that for them. Otherwise, the system thinks that they're flying from the Destination 1. Okay? So we're going to come down here. They need a flight. They don't need a flight, they need a hotel, and they don't need a car. All right, and then we see, again, the opportunity to change our return flight if we wanted to. We'll leave it as LAX. Was it Orange County? Is it San Francisco, San Diego, whatever? All right. So now we click on search. Essentially what we're doing is we're building a gap in the middle of a reservation. All right. Um, However it needs to be done, why it needs to be done is really irrelevant. But we're basically telling backs that they're going somewhere for a certain period of time and we don't need anything from you. All right, so here's our departure flight out of LAX. I'm just going to select it. At this point, it's irrelevant, the quality or the actual flights themselves. Okay, if you see, for instance, next day arrival, obviously they're coming in or leaving late in the day. Maybe they don't want that, so always look out for that. And we'll click. We know that's American on the return flight back to LAX. All right, flight from LAX to the Big Island, our return flight going from Maui to LAX. And then you can see destination 1, the Royal Kona Hotel. Do we want to switch that? Click on hotels over here. We can see that it'll add in round trip transfers. It's not free, but you can at least see that you can add that on, and it's always available as a feature in any destination, whether it auto adds it on or not. We see destination number 2. We told the system we're going to Kauai, but you can see it's completely blank because we don't need anything from them. It's their little group excursion wherever they happen to be going. Okay, now Maui, destination number 3, randomly picked hotel. Again, can make a change to it. Same thing here, features, it'll automatically add on a transfer. You can remove it, edit it, whatever the case may be. You can also utilize the features menu to find any of the off-site excursions aside from the transfers and whatnot to include in those destinations too. Okay, so the multiple destination option will allow you to build reservations like this with some kind of gap in the middle so that you can accommodate the travelers. You saw how you can build a reservation with 2 different hotels in the same destination. So that's a huge plus, and that happens a lot. That makes, or even perhaps even different room categories at the same hotel for the length of their stay. So maybe they're going down for their honeymoon, and the first couple of nights they want to really live it up and have some major room. But the tail end of it, they've gone through that. They're totally fine with something a little bit less expensive. You can break it up that way. Okay. So these are definitely options available to you within the booking system so that you can build that option in for yourself. Also note, as you can see in utilizing this, you can build a reservation for someone who, maybe that hotel isn't different, but as we saw that you have the ability to select a different return city. Okay, so if we go back to the flight section and go back to that flight leg that we were booking, we can change the return city if that's necessary. Okay, so we could have done that in the booking system. It's already got it locked in for us at this point, but as we saw with the multiple destination tool, we could have changed that before we began our search. Okay, so we've gone through a lot of information today, and just to kind of recap, we talked about those middle names, whether that's necessary. We talked about the seat assignments, where to find them on an already built reservation. Quickly showed you where to find that available under the seat map, if it's available in the booking system as you go through the process. We offset hotel dates. We built multiple destinations. We built a reservation with a gap in the middle. We've also touched on the shop by function to see additional flights available. I am going to pause this for